Yeah, baby, it's episode 10 of The Whiners. 10, that's a milestone. Where the hell are my flowers? Where the hell are my flowers?
I'm almost 10.
I didn't know it was 10. I would have got you flowers.
All right, well, whatever. Let's pretend 11 is a milestone. This
Turn
is
it
Jeff
up to
Norman.
11.
There you go. Jeff Norman with Ryan Milton, as always, on The Whiners, and our occasional co-host, Katharyn Grant, who is mourning the death of her cat, Kushka. So I just want to express my condolences and thank you for joining us, despite the difficult situation you're enduring.
Hey, pets are family. I get it.
I know we should drink a toast to Kushka.
Okay. Let's do that. No, I don't know what you're drinking. Well, let's just do the toast and then we can discuss what we're drinking.
I did wine
Kushka.
To Kushka.
That is quite the... Kushka deserves a better wine glass than that. That is disrespectful.
We have to get her.
All right. I'll use my real wine glass. Okay. Cheers.
She's got two. She's got two glasses. She's got two.
No, this is empty now.
If I keep toasting, I'm going to forget everything.
Okay.
All right. To Kushka. I'm drinking California Chop Shop this week. That's a California Cabernet, and the average price nationwide is $15. Now, the reason I have that second, for me it is. What happened was I was at a neighborhood restaurant, and they gave me their house wine, and I really liked it. I asked what it was, and they said it was Chop Shop. So I made sure I got. It's actually not available around here, but I got a store to order it for me. Oh, wow. And the reason I have that second photo there under the price, which you're now covering up as I'm talking, excellent timing, is because this comes with none of the usual wrapping around the cork. You know, usually it's either aluminum foil or plastic. And and that made me think, is it really necessary? I mean, if they're doing it, that suggests it's not even necessary. So why is everybody else doing it?
Well, so you're talking about what's known as the capsule. And by the way, I'm drinking Rumpus, which is a Syrah varietal, which is more in your price range, Jeff. This is under $10, and it's very good. It's part of the Samantha Naked Wines set that I got. And notice, I don't have the foil either, because I tore mine off. But
everybody does that.
It's called the capsule. And actually, Katharyn's wine has the capsule still on there. Back in the old days, it was to protect the wine from things falling into it, pests, environmental things. It used to be made out of lead. I guess that was dangerous. So now it's just decorative, though. It has no useful purpose.
I want to see what other wine. I mean, you are a wine expert, but I want to see what other wine experts say, and I also want to find out how common it is. Here's my investigation so far. In the shop where I bought it, I asked him, how common is it? And he says, well, I don't know exactly, but in this store, I would say a quarter to a third of the bottles don't have anything around the cork. That didn't sound right to me. I didn't want to call the guy a liar to his face. I just looked around a little bit. I didn't see any. Anyway, that's what he said. So then I went out to dinner. I was sitting at the bar, and I said to the bartender, you open a lot of bottles of wine, don't you? She goes, yeah. And then I told her about my situation. Have you seen any, or how many? She said she's never seen any wine without some wrapping.
I think
around.
You need to go to a different bar.
You need to go to Costco, Jeff.
Well, I don't know if that's the way to get the answer to what.
Well, some of them, like that other bottle I had, it was just a twist top. It's
It's all right. It's all right. There's nothing wrong with it.
It was organic. It was very nice.
All right, Scott Ritter is going to join us in a few minutes. There's going to be what hopefully will be a major anti-war action in Washington, D.C. on December 7th, and he's going to tell us about that. In the meanwhile, I just published a new Substack post, which you can read at civilnights.com. Basically, you can keep up with everything pertaining to the Winers by going to that address, including past episodes. That's civilnights.com. And we have kind of resuscitated a project called the American Drink Tank. We had an aborted attempt a few months ago, but because of a confluence of events that recently occurred, I've gotten all fired up about this. I found out about this thing called the junto. The junto, those of you who know your history probably have heard of this, but I never heard of it. It was a club that Benjamin Franklin started when he was 21 years old in Philadelphia. And the whole idea was to gather with friends and discuss issues of the day, business problems, things that would be likely to help each of them on an individual level, but more important, on a societal level. And they went on, I think it lasted 30 some odd years. It's actually in the
junto?
Yeah.
No, some of the
38 years. 38 years.
Some of the institutions founded by that are still active.
Still going. Yeah. It gave birth to copycats, and we're going to be copycats too. This was really a great thing. Just sitting around drinking. If you're going to drink anyway, you might as well try to solve society's problems. That's what I say. And Ben Franklin, for those of you who scoff at imbibing as if it's the habit of underachievers, know this: from that little group, among the things that were invented from that group sitting around drinking and talking, was the first lending library, meaning that books were too expensive and people, the average person, couldn't afford them. So that was the first time there was ever a library where you could borrow it. First volunteer fire company. They founded the University of Pennsylvania. They came up with the first volunteer militia and also Pennsylvania Hospital. So the next time one of your annoying teetotaler friends says, you're just a no good, what's the word, Neander?
Drunkard?
Yeah, drunkard. Throw that list of accomplishments at them. So we have a Facebook page already. Now, I know not everybody's on Facebook. For those of you who are, you can get there by going to americandrinktank.com, and please join our Facebook group. And what we're going to try to do is set up chapters of the American Drink Tank, that's what we're calling it, throughout the nation. And just like Ben Franklin did it, there'll be some structure to it, not too much structure because that'll take the fun out of it. But there'll be an agenda where people have certain goals, certain questions to answer. And we will co-create with our chapters and use this podcast, The Winers, as a drink tank, meaning a think tank, but drinking instead. And we're going to be kind of an incubator.
Drinking and thinking.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Check it out. Now, there was really a moment last week when I was talking about a confluence of events. One of them occurred last week when we were talking about Ryan.
By the way, John is right. It's junta spelled Junta. Just like he said right there.
And it's pronounced junta?
Well, I said junto.
No. You're fine. I know. You're right. It's got an O on the end. You're right.
I'm so used to seeing that like hunta.
I don't claim to be right. Here's the thing. Ben Franklin isn't around. I couldn't get his number. I couldn't get his email address. Nothing. So the best I could do.
Guy. Maybe we should channel him.
The best I could do is check the dictionary. So here's the dictionary pronunciation.
Junto.
Maybe the dictionary's wrong. I don't know. But for now.
Do you have to say it softly? Junto.
Yeah.
Right. No, I know. Jeff's saying it very too East Coast.
Yeah. Junto.
By the way,
the password is junto.
So, do you know other things that Ben Franklin invented?
Well, not other than the list I just gave you.
The odometer, the Franklin.
Well, hold on. We actually have a history expert here right now. Let's see. Scott, how you doing?
Where's your history extra? I'd love to meet this person.
It's you.
I know it's not what you came on to discuss, but we were just talking about what Ben Franklin invented. He had this thing called the Junto Club when he started when he was 21 years old in a tavern. He and his friends sat around drinking, and they invented various things just by talking about it, trying to solve issues of the day like we are. And they created the first lending library, the first militia, first volunteer fire department. You might be interested in that. And Ryan just started to quiz me on what else he invented.
I was going to say, do you know what he invented? Because he was an incredible person. I mean, ambassador. He was an author, obviously a founding father, a scientist.
I just know he flew a kite with a key on it.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, let's introduce Scott to Katharyn. She is our occasional co-host, and this is the second time she's joined us. Katharyn Scott. Scott, Katharyn.
Hi, Scott.
Hello, Katharyn.
Huge fan.
Where are you from?
I'm from Colorado.
Well, we have a geographically diverse gathering.
Well, she's in my neighborhood, relatively speaking.
Relatively speaking.
No, when you're out west, there's no relative. I mean, Texas is like takes all day to get across, and Colorado's pretty big too.
Yeah. Too. I do have family from upstate New York, though, and my mother was saying, "Tell Scott that we know the lakes."
Uh-oh, we got an internet issue. You got to plug in that Ethernet cable there, Katharyn, and get closer to your router. All right, well, Scott is joining us to talk about an action taking place in Washington, D.C. on December 7th. And why don't we just get right to it, Scott? What's happening?
Well, what's happening is that we're sort of on the brink of nuclear war. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas to everybody. You may not live to see it. Chug that wine while you can, Jeff, because if Joe Biden has his way, we'll all be dead by then, because he is literally putting us on a path towards nuclear war with Russia. The Russians yesterday, in response to continued provocations by the United States and Great Britain, who authorized Ukraine to use U.S.-made ATACAMS and British-made Storm Shadow missiles against targets inside Russia, the Russians responded by firing a new missile called the Oreshnik. I guess it means hazel or hazelnut. It appears to be a modification of the RS-26 Rubieж or Frontier that was almost came into being in 2017. That was a controversial missile because it wasn't quite classifiable. With a certain warhead configuration, it would be an intercontinental ballistic missile. That means with a range greater than 5,000 kilometers. And with another warhead configuration, it would be an intermediate range missile with a range less than 5,000, which would have made it a prohibited system under the then Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, which was in effect. Of course, Donald Trump withdrew from the INF Treaty in 2019, and Vladimir Putin chastised the United States today when he gave his speech. He said this was a huge mistake on your part, and one of the reasons is Russia has developed this missile, the Rubieж. No, I'm sorry, it's a modification of the Rubieж, and the United States Department of Defense has come out and admitted just that. They said it's a modification. What I believe, because I called it a Rubieж early on, because the Ukrainians been shown satellite imagery, and the Ukrainians classified it as RS-26, and they did that by visual observation, and that means that it's a 6-axle road mobile launcher with a distinguishable launch canister on it. What appears to have happened is that the Russians have decided to carry out a modification rather than continuing the Rubieж, which again would be in this more difficult to classify category. And if it's an ICBM, then they would have to declare it under the still viable New START treaty. So it creates compliance issues. But if they actually make a new medium range missile, then they don't have to declare it to anybody. They own it because the INF treaty is dead. So it looks like they took the first stage of the Rubiège and they put a new, what they call a post-boost vehicle or missile bus on the top of it. This will be a separating warhead that's able to maneuver to deliver its warheads. And it looks like it was carrying 6 conventional warheads, each one composed of 6 large submunitions, a unique warhead configuration, and it's on this missile. If it's what I say it is, it's not going to be hard for the Russians to mass produce this because they have the launchers. The launchers have already been put in production. And all of it, basically, it's a modified post-boost vehicle attached to an existing first stage. End of story. The guidance will be the same, etc. So this is a missile that could rapidly go into mass production. And even though it's still considered experimental, I think its first flight test was in combat.
Into Dnipro.
Yep, into Dnipro, where it took out the Yuzmash missile production facility. That's the old Soviet name that used to produce intercontinental ballistic missiles. It was renamed and was producing a number of things, including drones and other things. But I think most importantly, Rheinmetall had gone in and built an underground facility in Dnipro where they were building short and intermediate range missiles for Ukraine, using parts provided by Germany, France, Great Britain, but they were calling it a Ukrainian missile. The Russians clearly have been tracking this development, and that facility no longer exists. But this is a major escalation on the part of Russia. They now, with this missile, this modification, they can hit any target in Europe. There's nothing Europe can do. It can't be shot down. It can't be intercepted. It's a road mobile system, impossible to target with counter battery fires. Russia now has dominance, and what Vladimir Putin said is it will be immediate mirroring, meaning if Ukraine wakes up tomorrow and decides to fire a storm shadow, instantly the Russians will respond. There won't be any delay. There won't be any waiting. In fact, there's talk right now that Russia is still in the response mode because I think the Ukrainians are saying that the Russians are going to hit Bankova, hit the parliament tonight. So, remember, there were 2 attacks. There was the ATACAMS attack, and then there was the Storm Shadow attack. So Russia owes Ukraine one, and this may come. Now, the question is what's going to happen? Go ahead.
Oh, my question, just because you went through a lot of technical things, and I remember when I was in Russia, I saw the Topol M and the Yars mobile platforms. How is this in relation to those? I think those are longer range, but in terms of just the mobile delivery system, is it very similar? Are these all pretty much in the same type of platform, or how would a layperson know?
Well, the Topol M, the SS-27, and the Yars are both 3-stage missiles with a post-boost vehicle, so in effect a 4-stage missile. As you saw, they were very big.
Huge.
I think the number of axles for the Topol M might be 9 or more. Okay. It's a lot, but it's a longer launch canister. With the RS-26 Rubiège, it uses the first and second stage of the Topol M, with its own unique post-boost vehicle, but it's missing a complete stage, and so that allows it to be shorter. With this modification, it's using the first stage of the SS-27, and so it's even shorter. But depending on what the post-boost vehicle is, etc., the launch canister might be large enough that they can still use the unmodified launcher for the Rubiège, because again, the Ukrainians made a identification based upon visual identity, and that would mean that they saw a 6-axle launcher with wheel spacing that was consistent with what they had seen with the Rubiège, but this is going to be a smaller launcher. The interesting thing here, if we can get into a little bit of history, the Russians have been frustrated by what arms control has done to their strategic rocket forces. They resent the fact that this very powerful element of their military was gutted by arms control under Gorbachev, and then later on under Yeltsin. And then they had the very difficult economic periods in the early 2000s, and it was tight times in the production arena for them. Now that Russia's economy is working, their defense industry is expanding. There were a lot of Russians that were very frustrated by the restrictions of the INF Treaty. They wanted to get back to the good old days because Russia is a continental power where intermediate range missiles make sense. And they wanted to get back to those days. In 1983, when Dmitry Ustinov was the Minister of Defense and defense industry, a very powerful man, the Russians had the SS-20 deployed. This is their intermediate range missile. It's the one that scared the hell out of Europe, and they wanted to this is what we ended up destroying during the INF Treaty. The Russians wanted to supplement it, and because the SS-20 had a certain, it was nuclear. It was, it had ranges that you had to be back further, etc. The Russians wanted something closer to the front that didn't necessarily have to be nuclear in nature, something that could do a rapid response and take out command and control, etc. So what they did is they took the SS-25 missile that was being developed, which is an intercontinental ballistic missile, 3 stages, and they took the second and third stage of the SS-25 and made a shorter range missile called the Skorost, the quick strike. And Ustinov conceived it in November of 1983. It was already being tested in 84 and ready to go. And the goal was just to mass produce these things, have a whole bunch of Skorosts running around Europe, and at any moment they could just flood all of NATO with these highly accurate rockets using conventional strike packages. And the reason why I bring that up is it appears that this new Oreshnik or whatever, my Russian's horrible.
Oreshnik.
Oreshnik.
I think, you said Oreshnik.
Oreshnik. But I think what we're seeing here is the resurrection of the Skorost, of the Soviet era thinking on how missiles will be employed. The Russians are bringing Soviet rocketry back into the vogue. And this is a game changer because the West doesn't know how to deal with it. The West doesn't, there's nothing in the West that can match this capability. If they take this Rubiège modification, since I can't there, thank
Oreshnik.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say something dirty. I don't know, but if you take this Oreshnik, you are literally changing the game because there's nothing in the Western inventory that comes close to this. The Russians were mocking. We have something called the Dark Eagle that we're starting to bring in, and we've brought in. We've deployed the launch canisters. But what people point out is the Army units that are using this in the Pacific and will be using it in Europe. These are empty canisters because the missile hasn't been built yet. We haven't perfected hypersonic technology, whereas the Russians now have this missile that can be mass produced on the spot. And for the United States to sit there and go, well, there's only a handful of examples out there. Well, first of all, I'm pretty familiar with the way they do missile testing and how many missiles would be produced for testing. Also remember, because the stage has already been tested. It's not like you're doing proof of concept for the stage. Will it work? Won't it work? Oh, it works. That's why you have it on the operational SS-25s. So they know the stage is going to work. Might have been some issues on guidance on the post boost vehicle, the warhead. They just tested it, worked like a champ. I think this thing could go into mass production tomorrow. When I say mass production, We're talking about they have the ability to crank out, 6 to 8, even take it up to 10. Back when I was inspecting in Vodkinsk, in addition to the SS-25 that they were producing, and in addition to the SS-20 that they used to produce, and the SS-23 that they produced, and the SS-12 that they produced, the Russians were producing something called the Courier, which is the short ICBM. And their production rate of the Courier, the reason why I bring up the Courier is that we're talking, basically a 2-stage system. I'm thinking about the tooling and everything. The production halls that were used for the Courier are very much adaptable to the requirements to produce this modified Rubieж. And they were pumping out a bunch of Couriers. They were cranking them out at a period of time. They were coming out, 8, 10 a month, which tells me that this Rubiež modification, the Oreshnik, can also be done that. So, the idea is if the Russians have decided to hit the production switch, by the end of the year, I mean, this is November. By the end of the year, they're going to have an additional 8. Let's say they get into full production swing January, they're pumping out 10. No, I'm sorry, I've been to Vodkinsk. There's New Year's, so there will be a gap where they will not produce anything because everybody's having fun. But then after that, you get into February, you're talking 8 to 10. You're talking, and now they're going to have more than enough. And this is a devastating weapon, an absolutely devastating weapon. They can't be intercepted. So what is the West going to do in response? And therein lies the rub. Will they accept defeat? Because basically right now, if the West was wise, they'd accept defeat. But too much political capital has been put in. Not only that, let's put this in perspective too, what's happening here. Donald Trump ran on a platform that said, I'm going to bring it into the Ukraine conflict, and I don't want war. I don't want nuclear war with Russia. Joe Biden right now, after losing, because remember in September, Biden agreed, no, we're not going to do this. He was told by Lloyd Austin, don't escalate. These weapons will not change anything, and all it will do is escalate and get Russia to jump in bigger. That could lead to nuclear war. Well, they were right back then. Why did Biden change? November 5th. What's happened is that NATO, the pro-NATO people, the pro-Ukraine people, and more importantly, the deep state, this unelected mass of permanent bureaucracy that doesn't change, they are saying we need to Trump-proof our policies. And that's what's going on here. They're seeking to Trump-proof Ukraine to make it impossible for Trump to get away, Trump-proof NATO so that he can't pull out, and to Trump-proof the establishment to get them totally entwined together. So when Trump comes in on January 20th, he can't change anything. This is a coup d'etat. This is literally a coup being run by people who can't accept the election results. And they are invested in this. They are panicked. They're afraid of, there was explosive. Remember, they're going underground. These are penetration weapons going underground to destroy the Rheinmetall underground plant.
And it looks like more than one, by the way.
36 total impacts. Each warhead had 6 submunitions, 6 warheads. Marine math, 6 times 6, 36. I'm a genius. But my point is, we have this coup taking place by people who are ignoring the will of the American people, ignoring democracy. And left to their own devices, we could very well be in a nuclear war because they have committed so much political capital. These people aren't thinking about what's good for America. They're thinking about what's good for them. They are desperate. And so they're willing to disregard normal logic checks would say, we don't want to do this because we could have a nuclear war. Their big mantra is Russia's bluffing. And even now you see the extremists saying, well, Russia didn't use a nuclear weapon, therefore they're bluffing. They're using an experimental system. There's not too many of them. They're bluffing. And they're going to convince themselves. So the danger is they're going to keep doing this, and we're going to all die in a nuclear war. So on December 7th, if we're still alive, I have reached out to Jose Vega, who reached out to Angela with the Libertarian Party. And she has said, because they know how to do this, they've done a couple of them with the Rage Against the War Machine. So she's going to get the permits and get everything ready for the Lincoln Memorial to meet there. And then we'll get a crowd. We're going to start off. Then we're marching straight across to Congress, and we're surrounding Congress. And we're going to have speeches lambasting Congress to say no to nuclear war. That's it. We need to start a hashtag, just say no to nuclear war. We need to start that hashtag and make it a trend. We need to get it going. Just say no to nuclear war. And then we're going to walk to the White House and surround it and say no to nuclear war. And we're going to say it to the American people every day we can. Tell the Biden administration no to nuclear war. End of story. We cannot have it. Guys, this is literally like that. There's everybody out there.
Absolutely.
I've been saying it for a while. And what happens is people go, oh, Scott, you're so cute. You get a little wound up about nuclear war. It's so cute to see you get up. Guys, I've been calling this because I know what the hell I'm talking about. I know what trends are. I know how this works. We are heading towards a nuclear conflict. When you get Russia to do what Russia just did, it's not a joke. This is a big, big deal what happened here. Putin gave a speech. Every American should watch it, even if you can't speak Russian, just to look in his eyes. This is a man who is at peace with what needs to be done, knowing that what needs to be done is horrible. It is on automatic, ladies and gentlemen. All orders have been given. All decisions have been made. Whatever we do, they instantly mirror. There will be no debate. No, oh my gosh, what is doing? We do something, mirror. And if we do something too stupid that gets into their nuclear doctrine, the mirror will be a nuclear attack on the United States. And want to know why I'm worried about that? Yeah, Judge Napolitano is going to be there. A lot of people are going to be there. Want to know why I'm worried about? Because Rear Admiral Buchanan from Strategic Command came out and made a statement today where, in response to the publication of Russia's new nuclear doctrine, he said, yeah, America's ready for a nuclear exchange with Russia. We're ready for a nuclear exchange with Russia because we're going to win, and we'll still have enough nuclear weapons to deter the world. And I'm sitting there going, are you insane? Do you know what a nuclear exchange means? How many American cities are you just giving up? How many tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans are you willing to kill because you're ready for a nuclear exchange? We don't want a nuclear exchange. Yes. We can't accept a nuclear exchange. It means millions of Americans will die. And yet, here we are. We have a guy with Strategic Command saying, I think it's cool. Now, in his defense, he said, nuclear war should never be fought and everything. If it should never be fought, why are you ready for a nuclear exchange? Because our doctrine tells us to have a nuclear exchange, to be prepared to do this. Now, here's the key thing about a nuclear exchange, though. See, I've been there. I've done that. I got this T-shirt. To have a nuclear exchange where we prevail and we retain sufficient nuclear capacity to have deterrence capability means we have launched a preemptive attack. That's the only way this happens. Because if we do it normally, that means that Russia is going to launch their nukes. And if Russia launches all their nukes, we all die. The idea of this exchange is that we're going to attack first, take out the vast majority of their nuclear force, and then we'll have to ride out the few warheads that come in, and we'll lose a couple of cities. But that's okay. It's a little exchange. But that means that we're attacking first. Now you're the Russians, and they're listening to that going, no, you don't. So now the Russians are going to go even more leaning forward because they have launch on warning. Once they find out we've launched, they go. So they're going to be hypersensitive. This means not only will a launch get their response, maybe a flock of birds will. Maybe because that happened in the 1980s, flock of birds. Right. They thought ICBMs are coming in. Maybe a Norwegian test rocket will. That happened in 1995, almost led to nuclear war. The point is, the Russians aren't going to sit there and say, that's no big deal. You go ahead and preempt us. The Russians will be leaning forward, which means a mistake now can lead to a nuclear conflict. This is the most dangerous situation we have been in since the Cold War, and I would say even more dangerous, and I'll tell you why. Anatoly Antonov, the Russian ambassador to the United States, ain't here anymore. He went home. Yes, the guy who negotiated the New START Treaty, the guy who is an American expert, the guy who is ready to sit down and talk any issue we wanted to talk, but whom we ignored for 7 years. He's gone. The Russian major general who was his defense attaché, the guy who was a strategic rocket forces guy. Fact is, when I was inspecting the the Soviet Union back in the day, and I went out to Novosibirsk and inspected SS-25 regiments out there. He was one of the officers there. Pretty cool, huh? Well, he was there ready to talk about the nuances of strategic nuclear forces, how we could factor in confidence building, et cetera, to make New START extendable. When he arrived, they shut him out. They banned him from attending the defense attaché functions. So he was there. They sent him home. Why have this guy there when nobody's talking to him? So at a time when we need to talk to Russians, we're not.
There's no
During Cuban Missile Crisis, we had full diplomatic relations. Kennedy was talking to the ambassador frequently. We had a back channel to the Kremlin. We had every channel possible open so that each side knew what the other was thinking. Right now, we got nothing, absolutely nothing. We're not talking to them. And as a result, we have people that are making assumptions on both sides. And you know the danger of making an assumption. You make an asset with me, but here we all die from nuclear radiation and fallout and explosion. Guys, we are this close to a nuclear war, this close. We have to stop it. December 7th, Washington, D.C., flood it, guys. Come down there. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your politics are. I don't care. If you can say with sincerity, no to nuclear war, you got to be there. We can sort out all the issues later. It doesn't matter if you're pro-gun, anti-gun, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, pro-Israeli, anti-Israeli. None of that matters. For one day, drop everything, show up and just say no to nuclear war and send a signal to Joe Biden and the people that are committing this coup d'etat that they're not going to put up with it. I've reached out to the Trump campaign, and I have invited Donald Trump or his proxies or everybody to come and be part of this. And we need to encourage that. Hashtag just say no to nuclear war. Make it trend. Copy it to Donald Jr., copy it to RFK, copy it to Elon Musk, copy it to Tulsi Gabbard, copy it to Donald Trump. Make this the single most important issue of the rest of this year because it's the only issue that matters. It is the only issue that matters because everything else doesn't matter if you're dead, and we're going to die if we don't stop a nuclear war.
Well, let me tell you where I see one of the keys, one of the potential aspects to this being successful. And by successful, I mean an overwhelming amount of people show up on the 7th of December. In this article about how we can perhaps come together and focus on generating some kind of an American revival, I wrote about my friend Vanda, who I described her as a former anti-Trumper who's now warming up to him, not because she's enamored of Trump, but because of who is surrounding him, and in particular, Bobby Kennedy. So she is a person who is more focused on being a force for positive change than she is worried about who the particular president is. And I think that she represents a significant demographic, and that is where the potential lies. Scott, we've talked about this many times before. We experienced it years ago, that the anti-war movement is kind of fake, kind of non-existent. And I think there are a lot of people who are still, TDS types who aren't really responding to this situation because they don't want to do anything that might be seen as favoring Trump and going against Biden. But that's where the potential is. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it does. But I first of all, we don't have time between now and December 7th to make a movement of any sort, meaning a political movement to say this person's attractive, this isn't, this, that. What I'm saying right now is I don't care. I don't care if you're a communist. I don't care anything about you. All you need to do is say, I don't want a nuclear war. That's the only issue. I don't want to bring in the anti-war movement because, as you and I know, they don't exist and they're flaky as hell. I don't want any politics other than we don't want a nuclear war. We have to bring this stupidity to a halt. Even if you're pro-Ukrainian, you can't be for nuclear war. I will march side by side with people flying the damn Ukrainian flag as long as they say no to nuclear war. We can sort out the differences we have on Ukraine later. When we're like, we debate that in Congress. Do you get money? Do you don't get money? Whatever. These are discussions that we need to have, but we can't have them if there's a nuclear war. We all have to come in, clean the slate ideologically, just remove it and say no to nuclear war. Get the Biden administration's attention that the American people will not tolerate this. There was an election, and I can tell you, even the people that voted for Biden, they didn't vote for nuclear war. They voted for social programs and all this kind of stuff. They didn't vote to go to nuclear war with Russia. Nobody wants this, but that's where Biden's taking us.
Yeah, I don't even think they discussed it. So, I mean, we know.
No, they avoided discussion altogether. The only side that did discuss it was, I mean, Jill Stein will claim she discussed it, but she
didn't go on any large campaign, that we've seen.
Anything noticeable on this issue.
She didn't come on the shows.
Pardon?
She wouldn't go on the podcast to talk about it.
Well, she promised she would, but then she walked away.
She never went on podcast to discuss nuclear war.
Yeah, only Gaza, only Israel, which is worth discussing. But as I said, it doesn't matter if you're dead.
Right.
But the only side that did it was Trump, RFK Jr. and Donald Trump Jr. Based upon some initiative from Operation Dawn, wrote an op-ed piece that got published in The Hill and became the centerpiece of the policy formulation of Donald Trump, which is opposed to conflict with Russia, opposed to nuclear war. So, and they won the election. I'm not saying they won because of Operation Dawn. I'm not that narcissistic, but I'd like to believe that Operation Dawn played a role in informing people about this issue. A lot of people read the Hill article. That wouldn't have happened without Operation Dawn. That's 100% guarantee. Yeah, that article would not have happened without Operation Dawn.
But Scott, this is a good time for them to, like you're saying, to pick up on this and move with it because, as we know, the election itself was just the starting line. The fight to actually get anything going in a Trump administration is going to be, it's going to be white knuckles the entire time. I think taking out Matt Gaetz, which we'll talk about later, whether it's related to this, it's certainly related to a fight to stop Trump from doing something, like you're saying. And this question of a coup is even more significant, I think, in the context of this nuclear war. So why not just start acting like the president now from the standpoint of Trump and saying, hey, no, we're going to start talking. You said already Elon Musk was talking to the Iranian diplomats in New York.
We don't know if that happened. That I got to be careful on that one.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if that happened.
Allegedly. We thought that happened. Okay, so
well,
but anyway, it can happen.
One thing we know that's going to happen tomorrow is who's going to be speaking to the Russian deputy ambassador to the United Nations. And that would be Scott Ritter and yours truly tomorrow night on The Inspector.
He's very much before, because this is, guys, I'm sure everybody who watches this show is on our side, but hopefully people will watch this show who, later on. We are very close to a nuclear war. Polyansky agrees. And it'll be important to have this discussion on, making sure that we frame the problem accurately so that everybody understands where we are. This isn't a joke. Russia's not bluffing.
Right.
And then even more importantly, how do we get out of this? How do we move forward? Because this is the question, if he can articulate it, that the Trump people can listen to and say, oh, okay, now we know what we need to do to get out of this with the Russians. And again, I'm not asking for the president to violate the Logan Act. I'm not asking for any violation of the law. But I do think this is an extraordinary moment in American history where a lame duck presidency is actively sabotaging the mandate of a man who won sweepingly and trying to prevent him from succeeding. And doing it to the detriment of the security of the United States. This is not a war that's being forced upon us. The Russians aren't being aggressive to us. This is a war of choice. We have decided that we want to escalate to the point where there is the potential of nuclear war. And the American people said no, hell no on that.
And Biden's been,
Silent.
he's been called unfit to lead. He was not allowed to run again. How is he still in office? It's just bizarre.
Well, that's part of the coup, because is Biden cognitively capable of wrestling with the complexity of these issues? And I would say that the physical evidence is no. The physical evidence is this man is out of it. zoned out. And so who's calling the shots? Who's making these decisions? It's not Joe Biden.
Right.
Because Joe Biden already said no.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden, back when he had a brain that was working in September, said no. Now I don't know what he's saying. He won't even they won't let him address this issue in front of the public because I think they're afraid of the answers he will give. Like, I didn't want to do it, something like that, which is what he ended up saying about withdrawing from the race. He was forced out.
Oh, yeah.
Coup d'etat. This isn't the first coup that's taken place this year.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Good point.
Anthony Blinken.
Yeah,
all right, Scott. Well, I don't know if you want to hang out a while, but we certainly respect your time if you need to go. But if you want to stick around,
I'll let you guys get on. I don't want to step on your show. I'm a Diet Coker, not a wine.
You're not stepping on our show.
Vintage 2024 Diet Coke, right?
Well, this is actually a classic 2023.
Oh,
and I can tell because it's gone flat.
Stale.
But thank you for having me on, and please help promote the hashtag. Now, what is it? No to nuclear war?
No to nuclear war.
But I think it needs to be. I think it needs to be say no to nuclear war. We have to throw in a say.
All right,
you're a treasure, Scott. Thank you so
there
much
it is.
for everything you're doing.
War. That's the one we want. And everybody, we need to promote this. Whatever you do, hashtag, send it out there. This thing needs to trend. It needs to be on every American's phone by the end of the week. And every American who can make it, get to Washington, D.C. on the 7th. Let's flash mob this bitch. Let's get out there and just have people show up. What the hell? Flash mob it. We're going to go for a walk, surround Congress. We are not going to invade Congress. We're going to surround Congress and make sure that our point is made. They're not going to be in session anyway, so we'll just be yelling at an empty building, but it'll make good imagery. And then we're going to go to the White House and we're going to do the same thing. Yell at an empty building, but make the point that those two places, those democratic institutions, work for us. Yeah. We, the people of the United States of America, we're the bosses. They're the employees. And right now, they're not doing what the employers want. We've told them no to nuclear war, and they're taking us down the path of a nuclear war. And maybe we can get our future CEO to come down and help us out. And maybe he can do a little dance for us.
That'd be awesome.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank
Hashtag
you.
flash mob this bitch. That's another one.
There we go.
Oh, man.
All right, guys.
All right.
Nice.
See you tomorrow night.
Nice.
Bye.
Bless you.
Bye. Woo.
Flash mob this bitch.
Man, hold on a second. I got to take a drink for that.
Yes.
It's funny when he says, "Oh, I don't want to step on you." Come on, step, baby. Step as much as you want.
You are U.S. Tour of Duty.
Jeff likes to be walked on.
I do.
No, he meant massage. Wait a second.
It corrects
all right,
the alignment of the back.
Let's start it tonight, and after the podcast, get that hashtag out there. Do what we can. And I don't disagree with what Scott says, but still I think we're going to have to do some work to, I'm not saying necessarily create a new movement or to win over the peace movement. What I was saying is where I think the challenge lies, where the potential lies. We want to get a lot of people. And I think the Kennedy people who aren't, the people who aren't in love with Trump.
No, look, a lot of the Kennedy people, they're thinking in a different way about this. And, it's funny what Scott was saying is Colonel McGregor was saying Russia's on the highest alert right now that they've been in forever. So, again, it's the military guys who are leading the anti-nuclear war effort. It's always like that.
Yeah, because they know.
But I think you're right. I mean, sane people, I mean, you can see those videos. People were complaining. I've been watching this on X Russians are just talk. And then when you see those things slamming into the ground, I just was looking at that again. I mean, it's like they're raining down from heaven, right? And
and Americans are removed from it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody who's alive now, or almost nobody who's alive now, really knows what it's like for our homeland to be attacked.
Yeah.
So they're just not sensitive to this issue.
Yeah, so if Putin said he was going to respond in kind with each attack, is he including the U.S.? Maybe not explicitly, but if we're supplying the weapons and the funding.
Well, I don't think the mainland, but maybe U.S. or NATO targets in Europe.
Well, but that base, he said that was a missile factory, and it had European, German, and French parts involved. Scott went through so much there. I have to go back and look at it.
Yeah.
But those are their assets, in other words.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there you go.
All right. So we spoke earlier about this, or did we speak about it? I don't know if we even spoke about it in the article that I published. One of the things that sent a thrill up my leg was this idea that Trump has to create cities from scratch. And that is from his Agenda 47, which is Trump's real plans, as opposed to Project 2025, which the anti-Trumpers have been relying on to smear him, basically. And it's total nonsense, because there are always well-connected think tanks who try to influence the president as much as possible, and they never get everything they want. And there's really nothing unusual about Project 2025. The only thing that's unusual is the way Trump critics are pretending it's revealing something, and it reveals nothing at all.
They're pretending it's his. They're pretending it's his author, like that he authored it or his team authored it.
Yeah, or
Heritage Foundation.
And even if they take one step back, which is to say, okay, he didn't author it, but a lot of people who worked in the Trump administration and who know him, and he's are working for the Heritage Foundation, and Trump's name is mentioned, and it's like, well, so fucking what? His name is.
They do this every election for the incoming administration.
But I know you did some digging, Katharyn, as our in-house investigative journalist, to see what actually is in Project 2025, even though we should really ignore it. And let's take a look.
Yes, Project 2025 will permanently ban women from Paris Fashion Week unless you're transgender.
Did you read all 900 pages, by the way? Or
yes, very closely.
You did. Oh.
No, but I do know someone who did.
All right, so page 479 looks quite interesting, and a lot of this looks very interesting.
Project permanently ban women from making great Get Ready With Me? What? I don't even know what that means.
Get Ready With Me videos on TikTok.
That's very ambiguous.
And I'm on TikTok every day. I'm on TikTok every day.
Well, you should start watching those.
All right, this one makes a lot of sense.
They're mostly probably makeup tutorials.
That's me. Wait, you're going through a lot of pages here. Are you going to go through all the pages?
All 900. Yeah, we got the time, sure.
Medicare will enact Medicare for all except for women. Y'all are on your own.
That's cold. No wonder people are up in arms. That is just cold.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, finally we have the truth about Project 2025.
What was that about the sun? Figured out to go to the sun, they'll simply just go.
All right, that's practical.
They'll just simply just go at night.
Page 788, and for those of you who want to
I'm going to remember that. I'm going to remember. You know, I have a tip from that standpoint. Just don't look in the sun.
Okay. Freezing your computer updates in the middle of working on something important.
Wow, this is a master plan. This is a master plan. This is
it will force us to use the metric system.
No.
I've never learned the metric system. I get by because I know it's close to our.
Well, you know, the metric system was developed by the Russians as propaganda against Americans. That's what I've heard.
Oh, wow. So no more Long John Silvers. Did you see that one?
Oh, no.
No more fire departments. What's going to happen when there's a fire? I don't, this one I'm going to disagree
with. No more.
It all made a lot of sense until now, but this one, I can't get behind this one.
Yeah, it's going a little too far.
Yep. Okay.
illegal due to
Well,
gonna do that.
there's a
Okay,
lot
we're
of
back to
pages
this part.
here.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot to
All right,
process.
Well, it's 900 pages. Come on, you got to pace yourself.
Oh, endorses the idea of men leaving the toilet seat up. I knew it.
Actually, I just removed all the toilet seats from my house.
Is it?
Probably
Did you
for
really?
the best.
No, I didn't.
Is it bad to leave the toilet seat up?
I think Project 2025 is going to make you just go to the bathroom in a hole in the ground, like the Turkish toilets. I don't know. That's what I heard.
We already saw that one. All right. Well, good work. Do you generally do a lot of research like this, or was it? I mean, is this just second nature to you, or did you really have to get yourself?
It was a deep dive, Jeff.
Is this when you were at the Library of Congress in Washington doing all that deep research?
Yes, I was. Well, I went to the Heritage Foundation.
Whoa!
I sat down with them
into the belly of the beast in disguise, right?
I figure let's get it right from the Heritage Foundation.
Yes, JMM.
What the heck is even the Project 20?
People don't even know. He doesn't. Wow. This person doesn't even know what it is.
It's amazing.
It was issued. It's a 900+ page document issued by the Heritage Foundation, which is one of many well-connected think tanks, and it's what they want.
That's right.
And
this is what they're saying.
Critics have been pretending. Yeah,
that's right. They're saying Trump is going to do it. This is why he's got to be stopped, and he's fascist, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of it.
And none of the critics has even read it, unlike Katharyn, who really dug deep and went through it. Thank you for uncovering that.
And Katharyn, those pictures, they look like you used like the little teeny camera that you had to, pull out and then just take a little quick picture, like in the movies. Just have a spy camera.
The glasses with the camera in them, like at the Diddy parties. I just wear them. Take some pictures.
That's weird.
Well, we're talking about RFK Jr. before. This is a picture that's getting a lot of attention. This is the guy who's been nominated for Director of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., eating McDonald's on his plane. And a lot of people want to know why.
He looks sad.
And drinking Coke.
Well, he's holding it. Isn't he? He's holding the burger, and there's a Coke sitting there. We don't see him eating it. Actually,
that's true.
He's hesitant. He's asking himself, "Can I do this?" What do you think, Ryan? Do you think he took a bite?
I think he said, "I'll hold it. I'll eat the lettuce." I bet you he said, "I'm going to eat the lettuce, and I'm going to separate out the beef. Eat the beef."
Well, actually, I don't know if I have that photo handy, but I'll try to get it. He ate burgers with Scott too. When Scott met with him.
Right.
Did you ever see that?
McDonald's burgers?
No.
Well, let me see what I can take out here to make room.
August 17th. Actually, no. We got to make a little bit of fun. I'm still a little angry at RFK because he beat me by almost a minute in the 50 pull-up, 100 push-up under 5 minute race back in March when he was here in Austin. I was that close, and then we had the ice bath afterwards. It was very good, but he is 72. I'm more than 20 years younger, and he beat me by almost a minute. It was just
incredible.
So I gotta give him a little bit, right?
So here's the thing. You guys have probably already heard about it. The New York Times fact-checked RFK Jr. Mr. Kennedy has singled out Fruit Loops as an example of a product with too many artificial ingredients, questioning why the Canadian version has fewer than the U.S. version. But he was wrong. The ingredient list is roughly the same, although Canada's has natural colorings made from blueberries and carrots, while the U.S. product contains red dye 40, yellow 5, and blue 1, as well as butylated hydroxytoluene, or BHT, a lab-made chemical that is used for freshness, according to the ingredient label. So that was the fact check saying that
gross,
it's
right?
just as good as the Canadian.
It's like all these automobile. Katharyn, We lost Katharyn. You know what? That must be because of the Project 2025 stuff that they found her.
That's another. Yeah, it's another drawback. Well, you can't see them eating burgers, but according to Scott, they did eat burgers when they met in I think in Albany, New York, not too long ago.
Somebody said that maybe.
Oh no!
Your video disappeared.
I know. I don't know what to.
Well, it's your internet is crappy. That's the problem, I think.
Maybe I should. Should I log back in?
Yeah, you could.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it's all right.
It was the Fruit Loop division of the CIA. They're after me.
It could be.
Like,
well, yeah. Why don't you log? There you go.
How did that happen? That was weird. Okay.
Well, we're getting near the end anyway. But before we go, why don't we? I'm wondering if any of you have anything to say about Matt Gaetz withdrawing from consideration for Attorney General. He said that the reason is he doesn't want to be a distraction, which, I'm not saying that's not the truth, but there may be more to it. There probably is. Any thoughts?
I'll let Katharyn go first. Ladies first.
Well, I listened to what Scott had to say the other night, and it was very convincing that he was a great guy to assist with the revolution because he really takes no prisoners. He's very confrontational. Like with the Biden laptop information, he really put himself out on a limb. He got the Speaker of the House replaced. Yeah.
Yeah. Removed. First time in history, single-handedly did that. Yep.
So it's like, yeah, that would have been a great person to do this. I don't know if he was really worried about being a distraction, if he succumbed to what, he was accused of sleeping with a 17-year-old. They did not prosecute them.
But was something, but what was a surprise to Team Trump? That's what I'm wondering. What was a surprise? They had to know that it would have been a difficult uphill battle to get him confirmed.
You're wondering if it was a surprise? Is that what you're saying?
Hold that thought. Let me see if I can say something myself on this. One thing is that he was radioactive as far as John Curtis from Utah, Susan Collins from Maine, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. So while some people are saying, they're rhinos, that's Charlie Kirk, is his line is that they're rhinos. It could be that this is also just war on the Trump administration, because what did he say he was going to do? Get rid of the FBI, shut down, the ATF. He was going to go after all of these different institutions that were clearly very establishment. So he was radioactive in a certain sense, and they're going to go after these other guys. Pete.
Well, that's my point. They knew that. So what? So was this some sort of a plan from the beginning, or
But Trump's saying the same thing about disbanding the intelligence agencies, and so is RFK Jr.
Well, I was in a discussion with somebody. I said this is at this point it is a tactical thing. It's not strategic. I don't think Trump's going to change what he is doing.
Right.
And what's going to happen with Matt Gaetz? Is he going to run for office? There's a question about whether or not he can renege on his resignation from the Congress. He could also.
Can he? I don't know.
I think the Senate is a possibility, but also the thing that would make the most sense to me is that Trump could just give him a position in the DOJ that doesn't require confirmation, and he could make a lot of noise there, unless they uncovered some evidence that hadn't previously been known, and they feel that is lethal. I mean, obviously, everybody knew about the charges against him, that he did drugs and had paid a minor to have sex. But the thinking amongst those of us who don't have TDS was always, well, it's probably not strong evidence because the DOJ didn't prosecute him.
Right. But a Julian Assange type of smear.
But maybe there is some other evidence that has surfaced that they didn't know. That's a possibility. That's the only thing I can think of.
Or he got threatened. Or
Well,
something.
I mean, I thought that unless they, they're digging in his backyard, and originally the FBI had investigated this stuff and dropped it.
Yeah, it doesn't quite add up.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
clear to me.
maybe in the coming days we'll get some clarity on that. In the meanwhile, I'm wondering, are there any truth to the rumors, Ryan, that you enjoy having sex with goats? Is that true?
That is only at the Diddy party, I think.
Only at the Diddy party.
I wasn't. No goats. No
Sorry.
goats. No goats.
Sorry, I did hear they did have that at the Diddy party.
Really? No, that's
That's
not
what somebody
me.
said. I mean, you hear a lot.
If somebody said it, it must be true. All right, that'll do it for this week's
It sounded credible at the time. Sorry to end on that note.
No, that's okay.
No goats.
No,
that's not the note we're going to end on. We have another note to end on
yes.
in a moment. And I want to thank Ryan and Katharyn for joining us, and also our beloved audience. Remember, tomorrow night, we have a very special guest, the Deputy Ambassador of Russia to the UN. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his last name, Dmitry
Polyansky.
Oh, that's right. We've got our Russian scholar here.
Yes.
Fantastic.
So tomorrow, that's what we call in the business a get. You guys know that term, a get?
No.
That means you've booked a really special guest that many other people would like to get, and he's not normally doing interviews, but we have him. That's a get.
Fantastic. He's also a goat. Greatest of all time.
Don't drag him into that.
Greatest of all time.
How dare you? All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next week at the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the Whiners. Take care, everybody.